Shabbat Shalom. It's Rabbi David Barron with my weekly inspirational message. We're going to try to get back to some of those messages, and we still invite you to join us for our live services. In fact, Friday night, April 12th at 8 p.m., I'll be conducting a beautiful Shabbat service in our newly restored rotunda, the Plas family lobby and the Stanley and Joyce Black rotunda. And it's a service that will be led by myself and Cantor Nathan Lamb. Cantor Pierce is out of town, and our music director, Sharon Farber. And we know you'll enjoy this service. It'll be tradition, humor, and something really special for the upcoming holiday of Passover. And my message is going to be about removing the clutter from our lives. Easier said than done, right? I also wanted to take a moment to remind everyone that our second night Passover Seder will be on April 23rd. So contact our office or check our website, templeofthearts.org, for more information. And you'll also see last month's fantastic Shared Heritage of Freedom Shabbat service with the African American community and the Greater Zion Church Gospel Choir. I think you'll enjoy it if you haven't seen it already, or if you weren't with us for that Shabbat service. My message this Shabbat, as we approach the holiday of Passover, is an ancient one, but it rings true today as it did in ancient times. There can be no compromise with tyranny. You know, Pharaoh and his leadership oppressed the Jewish people, would not relent, did not want to release the slaves. And while there was a brief attempt by Moses to offer a compromise, let us take our men folk, and that was offered actually by Pharaoh, take your men folk and go and worship your God for 3 days and then come back. And Moses responded beautifully. He said, no, if we go, it's with our young and with our old, with our sheep and with our cattle, with all of us leaving together for freedom. And it won't be for 3 days, it'll be forever. And he was essentially saying there can be no compromise with tyranny. I make the analogy to what's happening now, and I want to take a moment to say how our hearts are broken at the death, the terrible, horrible mistake that was made by the Israeli military forces in the accidental killing of those aid workers from World Kitchen. Our hearts break at their loss. They were only attempting to bring humanitarian aid. But we have to look at who the real culprits were here. If Hamas would simply surrender in Rafah, surrender their weapons and release the hostages, none of this would be happening. We know who the instigators and the true culprits are. Nonetheless, we bear responsibility because as Israel was trying to protect against Hamas terrorists continuing, even to this moment, launching missiles from Gaza into southern Israel, as they were attempting to define who were the exact terrorists, which is such an almost impossible task, as many major American military leaders have indicated. How do you distinguish with an enemy who's hiding among civilians, who's using schools and hospitals? And I don't know if you saw the photo recently of all of the military equipment being hidden in the Shifa hospital in its maternity ward. I mean, you think about how despicable this enemy is. You come to see the depth of their cruelty and tyranny towards their own people, as well as towards our people. And so, message from Moses is still ringing true today. There can be no compromise with tyranny. With that kind of brutality and cruelty, there's only one response, and that's to end them. And that's what Israel must do. At the same time, our hearts yearn for the release of the hostages. Passover is, after all, nothing if not a holiday of freedom, and we yearn for the freedom of those hostages. Their families are begging for their return. And we know that Hamas has it within its capability to do so, but stubbornly resists and refuses. And so now we're at this crossroads, but what we're strengthened by is the remembrance of our people's liberation that we'll celebrate as we gather around tables on Passover. And we hope you'll join us for our second night Seder. And as we do that, we echo the words of the Haggadah, which says, B'chol dor vador, in every generation there were people who attempted to destroy the Jewish people. And we know the history of the Jewish people. It's one where there have been attacks and pogroms and holocausts and inquisitions, but the Jewish people survived because of our belief in God and our belief in the values of our faith. And also now we know the Jewish people will not only survive but flourish because there is a strong state of Israel that will not allow Jewish people to be killed with impunity. There will be consequences, as there hasn't been always in history, but there is today. So I ask all of you to continue to write to your congressmen and demand that they continue their unwavering support of the state of Israel. Yes, Israel makes mistakes. It's human, it's fallible. But those mistakes are made in good faith, not out of treachery and cruelty like the vicious attack we saw on October 7th. So all of us have a role to play in combating anti-Semitism. Go to stopantisemitism.org. In the way we communicate with the presidents of the universities we attended, demanding that they take steps to end anti-Semitic acts on college campuses, and also by remembering the message that echoes from ancient times to today: no compromise with tyranny. Let us stand strong together, and as a people together, we will survive and we will flourish. Shabbat Shalom.